My name is Erica Kelly. I'm a first-year medical student at the Ohio State University College of Medicine. I'm an acute lymphoblastic leukemia survivor, thanks to the outstanding care I received at the James Cancer Hospital and Solove Research Institute. I can't express how humbling it is to speak about my experience with cancer in front of so many others who know the disease just as well or even better than I do. My story didn't start with a month of fatigue followed by a blood test and a diagnosis. My life was affected for months before I was ever diagnosed with ALL. Some of my worst memories are from that time. My senior year here at OSU, when I endured 4 months of progressive pain to the point where I stopped even trying to get out of bed to go to class. When I did make it to class, I remember crying in the lecture hall because I had so much inexplicable joint pain. I remember calling my friends to see if anyone could pick me up from one end of campus because I couldn't bear to walk a mile. My diagnosis was missed repeatedly in numerous physician encounters and 3 emergency room visits. This terrible era finally came to an end the day my mother wheeled me into the James Cancer Hospital on March 20th, 2014. A gentleman greeter saw my long dark hair and approached my mother and me. He simply said, "You have come to the right place." He escorted us to check-in. I'll never forget the compassion of the first James nurse I ever met, and the fact that she was the first one to relieve my pain. I imagine that most cancer survivors remember the day they were diagnosed as a dark and fearful time. It certainly was frightening, but my memories of that day are bright. I finally had an answer, and I knew that I was in the right place. My treatment went smoothly under the loving care of Dr. Bhavana Bhatnagar, and I started to feel at home in the James until I had a bad reaction to one of my chemotherapy drugs. Unable to complete my regimen, I became a candidate for a bone marrow transplant. It was then that I met Dr. Rebecca Klisovic, my transplant physician and my third savior. After a month of induction chemotherapy and discharge from the hospital, I met John Mickle in the outpatient hematology clinic. Dr. Klisovic and John together became my lifeline ever since my initial stay at the James. My bone marrow transplant took place on July 16, 2014, thanks to a German man to whom I owe my life. And since then, I have been happily and thankfully recovering. But since that day, 1.5 years ago, I've also been hoping and waiting for normal. In the weeks and months following transplant, I started to gain back my strength and independence. I spent a lot of time on the couch at first, sometimes with stiffening back pain, and always with fatigue and side effects of medications. But eventually I could go for walks. Then I could have my central line removed. Then I was allowed to eat berries and be alone by myself. By winter, I could even run a little bit. Then I was allowed to drive and I could try going back to work once a week. Then I could attend interviews for medical school. And then I could actually attend medical school. And now here I am, standing in front of you all, apparently healthy and undoubtedly healthy, happy and so thankful. It almost seems like an easy way out to be diagnosed with acute leukemia, have a transplant, and get my life back all within 1 year. But of course, it's not that simple. Acute graft versus host disease, as described by another one of my favorite physicians, Dr. Don Benson, is bittersweet. You know that your donor cells are engrafting and functioning within the first 100 days of transplant when they start to recognize your body as foreign and attack it. So I was excited to experience a sunburn-like rash, uncontrollable itchiness, and GI problems requiring a brief readmission. But this is in the past. Much less exciting is chronic graft versus host disease, when transplant patients have to live with symptoms such as dry eyes, muscle spasms, joint pain, vaginal erosions, fatigue, and more, indefinitely. Being transplanted is like playing roulette. You never know what you're gonna get, and then you have to live with it, or find a way to manage it. And almost every single one of these chronic symptoms are not things that are apparent to others. They are things that you silently fight when everyone assumes that things are back to normal. Personally, I have gone through menopause from the chemo, which impacts my health, my emotions, my relationship with my fiance. I suffer from chronic graft versus host disease, and it's being managed by my transplant team and mostly my gynecologist. I'm an example of a very lucky person. I have a friend who, after his second bone marrow transplant, is now dealing with mouth sores that make it difficult to eat and all over itchiness, and he recently became diabetic from the steroids being used to treat it all. I could be dealing with so much worse. My friend and I agree that it's all worth it. We are blessed. The fact that I'm standing here today is something near a miracle, and I only have all of you to thank. Thank you for your care. Thank you for your support. Thank you to all of you here tonight who are working so hard to improve lives and make the world a little more cancer-free. Thank you to those who have donated to the Cory and Zach Farmer research funds that benefit people like me and should have been able to benefit them too. Thank you.